I can surround myself with people that are better than me at something, then it's going to heighten my abilities, right? It's going to take me up a notch. My grandfather used to tell me, if you are the smartest one in the room, find a new room.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We are here on the third season of the Provoke Coach podcast. As always, I appreciate everybody sharing, liking, loving who we have on our episodes. This is awesome because I've had some of the best people that really I follow on a regular basis that have made me better on a daily basis. I get to share their story with you. So I have with me a very special guest today, a fellow coach. I mean, a gentleman that calls himself really the no excuses coach. So I appreciate you coming on board today. Christopher Rausch, thank you so much for showing
What's up, brother?
Pro Coach podcast, man. Thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it.
It's a joy to be here.
So I guess, for those of you that really don't know who Christopher is, and maybe you haven't followed him, or maybe you've never even heard of his name, you're going to hear it now, and you're going to know why I follow him. And we were just talking prior to coming on board, and we were talking about really who we follow and how our narrow focus changes over the years, with all the noise out there, in not only in social media, but in media just in general. It's easy to get clouded by the BS and the excuses. And when I first came across your profile on Owl, which is we're both a part of, which, hey, we'll plug them right now, which is an awesome app that we can both really kind of share our expertise with. I came across your profile. I was like, no excuses. I was like, wow, that's kind of like me. Like, I provoke, you give no excuses. Like, Here we are. So thank you so much for being on. And look, just tell us what you're doing present day right now. What is, your world like right now?
My world right now is blessed. Me and my wife just got back from spending 15 days in Italy, crisscrossing the country, going to different destinations, just having a blast. We left my 5-year-old son here home with his grandmother and went out there and did that. And I just took the time. I've been always go, go, go. I left a corporate position back in November of 2019 to do my speaking and my coaching and writing my book full time. It was about time. I was comfortably miserable in my day job. And now I just coach and speak. And I'm actually in the process of finishing my initial memoir called It's Just You and Me, Kid.
Nice.
Story of a mother and her son surviving on the streets of Southern California. I was homeless for 4 years when I was a kid. I dropped out of school in the 7th grade. So now it's just all about impacting the world. I'm on the board of directors for a charity called Help Heal Humanity. and just looking to just raise the vibration of this planet in a time where it seems like everybody's trying to divide us and bring up all the BS. And I'm just trying to bring the world together and have everybody live a kick-ass, unstoppable life.
Yeah, as I was going through your website, there's an old saying, the jack of all trades is a master of none, right? But if you always know the other verse of that quote, essentially, and I don't exactly know what it is, but it pretty much says that, you can accomplish so much more with so many more tentacles out there. Not only are you a coach, a one-on-one coach, but you do group coaching. You do these seminars and these events, these full-day immersions, 2-day immersion events. Talk about, I guess, present day, like, what do you guys have coming up in the future? Is it you? Is it individually just you? Is it you and a team? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh, that's a great question, Clifton. I appreciate that. Right now, since we're coming out of COVID, it's been crazy because my docket was all built up for 2020 and 2021. And everything just shut down and all the speaking engagements went away. And then all of a sudden, everybody was becoming a coach and a speaker during COVID. So now it's just about getting back out there. I just was recently in Chicago attending the Power of We event, where I was actually I was the at-home host for the subscribers there. So we did an at-home edition. So I was the live on pay-per-view host, something I'd never really done before, but I do 2 podcasts a week. So right now it's just all about just impacting, getting the book. The primary focus right now, to answer your question, is getting the book done. That's been a pain in the ass of getting done, writing the memoir of your life. But honestly, just getting back out there on stages. I've got the group coaching program starting in September at the urging of my coach. She's like, she went and looked at my website as well. She goes, I can't buy anything from you, and all I can do is work one-on-one with you. So here's your action plan. So she's got me doing some courses, doing the group program, and just lighting up life. I'm just super excited about impacting the world right now.
Yeah. And where do you see this in the future? Because you're right. I mean, I think that you and I kind of went into the coaching world at right around the same time. I was at the end of 2018, the beginning of 2019, kind of when all this shit was starting to hit the fan. You're right. Like, everybody, it's almost weird. Like, everybody said, okay, corporate world, no more. Let's go on and let's do speaking, because we were really good at speaking in front of the people, and doing this sales training. Like, where do you see that, the coaching world, I guess, in the future? Where do you see that?
Actually, to correct you a little bit, I've been coaching for actually about 20 years.
Oh, okay.
I started coaching and speaking way back when. I did it simultaneously while I was doing my job. Okay. So I was building that up as I was going. And then that's when November 2019, where I decided to make that leap. And Steve Harvey has an amazing video out there called Jump. It's like less than 2 minutes. Steve Harvey, the game show host, the guy, he talks about jumping. So for me in the coaching and the speaking world, it's been very interesting, because back in 2013, I was a suit and tie speaker. I got up there and did the whole hand thing.
Yeah.
And then I invested myself into going into a mastermind, and I was telling the people, like, so what's your big thing right now? And I said, I'm sick and tired of doing the suit and tie speaking. I'm sick and tired of having to say everything so eloquently and everything else. I just want to be me. I'm a biker. I'm a rocker. I speak colorfully. And I just, I'm the kick-ass guy. Right. And so everybody was like, you need to do that. You need to do that. So I was like, all right. So I owned it and did the bandana on the tie. I always wear a bandana anyway, because I hate sweating. It's not a Brett Michaels thing or anything else. It's just, I hate sweating. So it became this whole thing, and to differentiate myself from all the other speakers out there, because I would go to these events and I would be speaking on stage with 12 other speakers, but we'd all be saying the same thing, all doing the hand clasp thing. And I'm like, no, I want to set myself apart. And I knew that I was on the right track when I worked with Les Brown, the great Les Brown. I went to a 3-day speaking trainer camp with him. And as part of the first part of the thing, he had everybody speak on stage for 20 minutes to kind of see where we all were. And what happened was he spent 45 minutes on me. And everybody was like looking like, why are they spending so much time on the guy with the bandana and the tie and the jeans and the wallet chain and everything else? And ultimately, on the 3rd day, Les Brown walks into the training room. As part of the package, you get to go up to his suite and he interviews you. I mean, like Les Brown and Tony Robbins were the 2 people I listened to cassette tapes back in the day to get my mind right when I was on drugs and gangs and all sorts of stuff. And ultimately, he walked in on that 3rd day, and everybody couldn't understand why he was talking to me. And he came in and says, "Hey, Mr. Kickass, do you have one of those kerchiefs for me?" And I was like, I do, bless. And I always carry 3 bandanas in my back pocket. And I said, which one do you want? You want a red one, a blue one, or a white one? He goes, give me the blue one. And I go to hand it to him. And he goes, no, fool. He goes, put it on me. And here's Les Brown and me the guy with the bandana on. Everybody else is kissing his ass. I'm just like treating him cool. And so I wrap the bandana around him. We take some cool pictures. I showed it to somebody the other day. I don't know how flaunting it, but for me, he took me out to the lobby of the Sheraton Gateway Hotel, and he says, man, I could put you on stage as you're an amazing speaker. He goes, but I can't do this. He goes, I can't do the swearing. I can't do this. And I, for once in my life, I didn't jump on the bandwagon to predicted success. I said, Les, I got to be me, man. I got to be me. And it was such an honor for him to ask that. And so where I see it, I see me blowing up the world. I see once this book comes out, I've got mentors of mine who've read the preliminary copy of it, and they're like, it's got to be a movie. It's got to be. So for me, it's just all about enjoying my moments right now. My first priority is being a dad to my 5-year-old son. We adopted him from birth. But for me, it's just really about changing the face of the world, especially in these tumultuous times. You know, what about you? I mean, let me turn the tables on you for a second. I'm always interviewing. So what is it for you? Where do you see speaking and coaching for yourself coming up?
You know, I mean, for myself, very similar. I'm working on my book right now. I did a speaking engagement almost last September, and it really lit me on fire. And I went and watched. I took my daughter, which was amazing. She got to go with me. She actually did the first videotaping of her dad speaking live in front of a real audience, not one that was forced to be there by corporate America, right? I mean, I've definitely stood in front of many of those, you know, corporate type speaking opportunities. And you're absolutely right. I think that, you know, I've been doing it a lot, like you've been doing it a lot. I never did it simultaneously though, you know, and that was real scary for me to jump out. And because I never really did like what you're talking about that you've done, is that you finally made the leap, then it sounds like, to really doing this full time, to really being you. And let me ask you this question, because you said something that was interesting that caught my attention. Les Brown, you have somebody that is just powerful, like you said, right up there with Tony Robbins, which is who I listen to with the cassette tapes and the whole 9 yards. You know, we're dating ourselves, you know, we go back, you know, here's a powerful man, a powerful speaker that you're right. Like he could say, you're on stage, you're opening up for him, right? Like if we go back to rock and roll, like if you open up for, you know, some awesome rock band, you know, like you just take it, you do it. Like it doesn't matter what it is. And you were unwilling to do that. Wow.
At that point, I was just so sick and tired of everything in my life had been all about predictability and safety and security and doing everything for everybody else. I tried to do everything else for my mom when we were homeless. I tried to do everything for people in my corporate life and everything else. And it was just, I wasn't congruent. You know, I was sitting there coaching people and telling them to go fly their freak flag and do everything else. But here I was, you know, okay, for this person, I got to be this person. And for that person, I got to be that person. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when I got around people who are brighter and smarter than me, they're like, Chris, you can't be anybody else but yourself. You're denying the world your brilliance by masking it in the suit and tie, getting up there sweating and if you want to wear your bandana, go do it. And so I had some amazing people who said, it's not going to be easy, but it's most definitely going to be worth it. And so to be able to do that and to be able to own that space, I've told the story quite a few times recently, and it's just really reminded me that I, you know, told God, source, the universe at that point that I wasn't willing to sacrifice anything else, but just to be me. And that's what I teach people now. I teach people how to go from comfortably miserable to be kick-ass unstoppable and fly their freak flag. I had a lady hit me up a couple of years ago. She saw one of my walk and talk videos, and she's 69 years old. And she hits me up and she does a complimentary coaching session, and we coached together for a year. She had been widowed for 13 years. She hadn't had sex. She had all these different things. And we turned her around. I said, I'm going to teach you how to fly your freak flag. She told me too many things, but ultimately she wound up telling her family that she was physically assaulted by the church when she was 11 years old. She went and told that to a church. She wound up finding a date and wound up getting married last August. And so a 69-year-old woman can fly her freak flag. Anybody can. And I just love doing that. I love seeing people happy. You can let go of all the egotistical stuff, all the possessions, all the monetary crap, all the BS people in your life. I don't know if we can swear on this. All the bullshit people in your life, and just be who you are, because when you're just who you are, the right people gravitate towards you. And I wouldn't trade a second of my life and any step of it, but being who I am and authentically and congruently is the absolute best.
You know, and do you find that liberates you in other parts of your life as well? Because I think people, they mistake, I guess, you kind of releasing that into the world, and you kind of saying like, fuck it, I'm gonna be me, like I'm gonna do me. Like, I think the older that I get, the more that I get like that. And especially leaving corporate America, I mean, that was very liberating to where, oh my gosh, I can grow a beard. Oh my gosh, I can wear my earrings. I can get my nose.
I love the hawk.
I can show I mean, look, I mean, I've always kind of wore the mohawk, but now I got it, go into the back, and, I'm trying to, do all this and try to be a cool dad. Right. But the fact is that I like to have fun, and it was very liberating. Do you feel that bleeds through other parts of your life? And I guess if it does, how has that worked out?
No, it absolutely does, without a doubt. I mean, I've had to wish people well in my life. I mean, I've even had to wish my half sister well at a certain part, because people will try to drag you down. People will try to make you stay comfortably miserable like themselves. And I've had to just, walk on and continue to do what I do. And the people I've met and the relationships that I've developed with famous people, stars, celebrities, rich people, poor people, just being me, there's a level of connection. Like, everything else before was superficial because I wasn't truly being me. I was like, okay, what does this person want me to say? What does this person, how they want me to dress? And then when you're just genuinely you, people open up to you. I've had more amazing conversations in the last couple of years, especially since leaving corporate. Your vibration changes. And when your vibration changes, I tell people that the God source, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, starts to attract those opportunities and those people into your life. And then sometimes it's scary. I mean, initially it was like, okay, did I make the wrong decision telling Les Brown? No, I could have been on stages making hundreds of thousands of dollars and touring the world and having all this stuff. But at the end of the day, especially for my son, when we adopted my son, we adopted him from birth. My wife and I had trouble conceiving, so we adopted from birth. And one of the most important things that really has kept me congruent and kept me sane is to think, okay, if my son came to me and said, Dad, should I pretend to be somebody I'm not in order to gain egoic situations or money or anything else? I would tell him absolutely 100% no. Yeah. Just be you. So that has forced me to really take a look at everything I do, the people I associate with, the coaching clients that I accept. I don't always accept all the coaching clients. Yeah. Is just to be 100% congruent. And then you don't have to worry about what you said to somebody. You can be authentically you. Just the people you attract and the opportunities are genuine. And that's the whole thing about life, because I've seen people who have millions of dollars, they have TikTok follow, they have all of that stuff, but they're miserable inside because they have to pretend to be somebody that they're not. So to answer your question, absolutely, it's been amazing.
And I guess what drove this, what was a provoking moment that got you to just make a decision to say, you know what, fuck the suit and tie, forget the, stand, in between the lines here and kind of towing that. What made you just say, you know what, enough is enough?
That's a great question. It actually happened back into the initial time happened back in 2008. I remember it very specifically. I went to a coworker's funeral, and I sat in the back of the church and I watched everybody getting up on stage or up in the front of the church, and they were eulogizing this person. I knew them a little bit, but to hear what this person had done and impacted these people's lives was just really heartwarming. I found tears in my eyes, and I was just thinking, and I started asking myself this question. I invite all the viewers to ask themselves this question. If I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And at that point in 2008, I was successful, monetary, houses and all this other stuff. But I figured about 10 or 15 people would show up with cases of Miller Genuine Draft and bottles of Jack Daniels and Motley Crue and Bon Jovi albums and be like, remember that time Chris did this stupid thing? Remember that time he did this? Yeah. Oh yeah, he was homeless and he was a 7th grade dropout and he graduated and got a master's degree. And I thought to myself, as I was driving home, like, is that really how I want to be remembered? Yeah. No. And so I went home, God's honest truth. I took out a pen and paper. I always keep pen and paper right next to me. And I literally wrote my eulogy, which is something that most people are scared to think about. It's something I have my coaching clients do. And I wrote out my eulogy. And ultimately, honestly, it came down to Christopher Rausch will have fought for what was right and what was fair. He will have risked for which that mattered. And he will have left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. God's honest truth. I read that back to myself and I had tears coming down my face. I'm like, that's a legacy that I could be proud of. And from that point forward, I started looking at it. Okay, what's the best way to achieve a goal? To think with the end in mind and work backwards. So every day I woke up and I set the attention to fulfill that legacy. And when I'd be in situations at work or anywhere else in my life, is this fulfilling my legacy that if I died tomorrow, people would know that I would fought for what's right and what was fair. So at work, I started taking more risks. In my life, I started taking more risks. I started asking for more of that, what I wanted. And I started traveling the world and seeing different destinations because I started asserting myself and being comfortable with the fact that I deserved to be me at the same time of going out there and impacting the world with what my vision was. And now, honestly, I could say if I died tomorrow, I know that every single thing that I do, if this is the last thing I do, that my son can go on my social media and go, Dad was still on point. And that's for me, everything in the world is my son knows that I'm on point, that I can give him advice and be congruent with that. And I just flipped the fuck it switch essentially. And then in 2019, I got an amazing coach named Sally Anderson, and she actually sought me out. She saw all my social media. She'd been following me since 2013. She's a Kiwi. She's from New Zealand. And she's like, fuck, mate, she goes, you should be big. You should be Oprah big. She goes, I've watched you and all these different things. I'm like, are you stalking me? She's like, no. She goes, I want to coach you because I want you to get out of this place where you're at. And the second part of that answer to your question is that I didn't realize I was in survivor mode. She's like, fuck, mate, you got to get out of survivor mode. I'm like, I own 2 houses. I've got this and that. And I've got to make 100,000, all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, you have to have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. She goes, you have to just learn to be in the moment. Yeah. And that was like liberating for me just to let go of all that extraneous bullshit and just rock who I am every single day. It's not easy. I had somebody the other day said, well, it must be nice, Chris. You always have so much energy and you're always so positive. I'm like, you see me for an hour a day. You don't see me for 3 hours where I'm like, okay, got to stay on point. Okay. But I know the tools to what you do to be successful. So I just apply those and I just continue rocking it.
Yeah. Well, and that's gotta be just amazing that you said that it's very liberating for you to just live in the moment. And, that coach of yours, she was absolutely correct, because we do become attached, we're taught throughout the years of our life growing up, like, this is the way it's supposed to be. Find a job that you can make $100K or more, get a house, get a couple of cars, get the picket fence, have the kids, and it's all supposed to be laid out like this, and then you get it and you're like, fuck, that's it. This is it, those things are wonderful. And you don't discount any of that stuff. Now, did things change when you adopted your son then? I imagine that, everything changes when you have kids, and that had to kind of turn you in a different direction. Did you think about going back to corporate America to have that stability? Was this before or after? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, no, he was born in 2016. I left corporate in 2019. So I was still doing that balancing thing. But one of the things that I did do back in the day in 2016, before he was born, I was going through a dark period in my life. So I actually stopped coaching. And I literally told God, I was like, I just want to be normal. I just want to be like every other dude and goes to 7-Eleven, buys a 6-pack of beer, goes home and watches the football game, wakes up and does his job and is just happy. Because I was always just hell-bent on building content and material and coaching and speaking and all these different things. I've always been super driven, as a result of my homelessness. Everything has been about predictability and safety. Yes. And then ultimately in 2016, 2015, I was going through a dark time. So I stopped all of that. And God's honest truth, I got a tattoo that says, what doesn't kill me only makes me stronger.
Yeah.
So that's something I tell people all the time. I said, every day, I tell people that every day is a new day, and what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. When you look back on your life, the adverse situations that you've been through, did you not learn from them? And did they not benefit you later on in life and other shit that you went through? Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I stopped doing that. And then when we decided to adopt, I never really honestly wanted to be a parent. I was very free loving. My wife and I have always had, been married, but separate lives kind of a way. Like I could go have my freedom. She could go do her girls trips. And then all of a sudden I was thinking about, okay, man, I'm going to be a dad. And then we did the adoption route for 2 years and we weren't getting picked. We weren't getting selected. But at the time when we got selected, I decided to give up my speaking part of my career. I was doing everything simultaneously. I had 6 weeks of vacation through my corporate job. It was amazing. So I could literally do it all, no problem. But I let that go because I did not want to be a conflicting priorities to be able like, okay, well, I'm going to be traveling, maybe 15 times a year, and I'm going to miss out on my son's life, especially his early days. So I decided to put the speaking thing on the side and really just devote myself to being the best parent I could be. I grew up without a dad. I grew up with a mom with various psychological disorders. And so for me, it was all about breaking that cycle of abuse and everything else that happened in our life, because my mom had told me many times, she goes, you should never have kids. And I said, why? She goes, well, abuse runs in our family. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I said, no, you chose to beat me. You chose to lash out at me. I believe that I could be actually a pretty good dad. And everybody throughout my life always said, Chris, you'll be a great dad. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I can't stand, having to say things more than once, it's all these different things. But my son Jackson, Jackson has taught me so much. He's taught me about unconditional love. I don't regret any of it. I mean, the speaking part of it has been more challenging because I got out of it. I was on the cycle. I was on the tour. I was known. And now, it's about rebuilding it. but I wouldn't change a minute of it, because to be his dad is the best part of my day. I wake up every single day. My morning routine is that I say what I'm grateful for before my eyes open. And then I set the intention for the day. And the God's honest truth every day, I say, my intention today is to be present and playful with my son.
Yeah.
So when I'm with my son, I'm not thinking about coaching clients. I'm not thinking about marketing. I'm like, what kind of dad would I want right now if I was this kid? And that's something I learned from geez, I'm going to forget his name now. He's a popular guy, not Zig Ziglar. It was somebody like that. And he said, when you're in a situation like, am I being the husband that I would want to be if I was my wife? Am I being the dad I would want to be if I was my kid? And that's really channeled my focus to be present in those moments where most of my life I wasn't.
Yeah. Well, and do you think that, I guess now that things have changed, now, your son, he's growing now. I mean, he's a little bit older. Now is when he starts to support dad in his adventure, right? So now is when, the speaking, I mean, like my daughter, she was 10, just turned 11, she's videotaping me, speaking. I mean, it was, not the best,
not the best videographer, but the best moment, the best feeling. That would be amazing.
But it doesn't matter, right? Like she got moved that day. Do you think that your speaking or your coaching style, or really you as a professional, has that changed since you've been a father? I know for me it has 100%.
Yeah, I am. I'm more compassionate. As far as people go and as the journey goes, I've learned just as I've gotten older. I'm 53 now, so I've got some years on me, and I see things a lot differently than I did when I was 43. Obviously, you'd go through those trials and tribulations, but I think, for me, it's always about setting the example, leading by example with my son. So I'll sit there and like, this is a perfect example. So I teach my son, like when he's frustrated, I'm like, you just got to breathe. Let's just take a minute and take 4, hold it for 4, let it go for 4. So this one time, and I normally don't get stressed out. I'm not a very stressed out person. And this one time my wife wanted him to go get a haircut. He was growing his hair out long. I used to have super long hair. And I was like, let him grow his hair out long. And she's like, no, he's got to have a haircut by tomorrow. So I found this barber and I'm driving there and my GPS was telling me all these different ways. And I was getting frustrated. And then we get there and I couldn't find parking. And I was like frustrated. And we get out of the car and I swear to God, my son says, he goes, Dad, let's stop and let's do our breathing. And I was like, yes. I was like, no, we got to hurry. And he goes, no, Dad, we have time. And then so we sat there in the parking lot. We were like 15 minutes late for the appointment and we did our breathing. And I'm like, son, I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. I said, thank you for that. So he's already seeing some of the strategies and the tactics that I teach people. And so for me, has it changed? Yeah, it's allowed me to really, that's why I left corporate, because I thought, at the end of the day, I can make more money and I could become vice president and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, what's the most important priority, not the priorities, is my son and being there and being congruent so that he can have the life that he truly deserves on his own terms, flying his own freak flag. If he wants to become a ballerina, he can become a ballerina. I don't care what he does as long as he's happy, because so many people out there in the world, as you know, are being somebody that they're not, hoping, wishing, and praying that someday something's going to happen and then they're going to be able to truly live their authentic lives. And I don't know if you've ever read the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. Have you ever seen that book?
Yes. Oh, yes.
So the number one regret of the dying is the fact that they didn't get to live the life they wanted to live. They lived the life that they thought they were supposed to live. Exactly. And so for me, reading that book and keeping that in the back of my mind, there's no question, there's no doubt. Sometimes some days are super stressful and uncertain and everything else. As an entrepreneur, it is what it is. But I wouldn't trade any of it for the moments that I've had with them and the life that I built for myself and the legacy that I leave and I inspire other people to have.
And I guess, I'm going to kind of dig in a little bit with like what you were talking about, because I actually did like a book report, on that book and really dissected,
oh, nice.
And it's amazing that people that were terminally ill, people that were dying, they were on their deathbeds, and some of the things that they were wishing upon. And, it was just it wasn't, I wish I would have bought more property or luxury vehicles or, these materialistic things. I mean, some investments, look, I mean, as you remember with the book, people did talk about investing early and taking chances and things of that nature. Yeah. Where did no excuses come from? Because I'm drinking your Kool-Aid. I feel exactly the same way, but you have this mantra and it carries you throughout your coaching practice, throughout your speaking, throughout these, full day immersions and seminars? Where do the no excuses come from?
Nah, I've never been asked that question, so thank you. I mean, I've been asked a roundabout way, but the no excuses thing really came from when I was working with a couple of my mentors. We were having a brainstorming session, kind of like a mini mastermind for 2 days. We actually did it here at my house, and we were talking about like niche, like niche, however you want to say it. And I've always been, I want to help everybody.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about our stories and everything, and they're like, Chris, how did you get to be where you're at today? Because I do the whole unstoppable thing. And I said, really, I've never given myself any excuses. I said, I was a homeless 7th grade dropout, lived in the backseat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs. I dug through dumpsters. I did all this stuff. And then at 17 years old, a guy said to me, Christopher, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. And I wound up, he says, why don't you go back to school? And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? I'm like, seriously, I'm 17 years old. I'm not going back to high school. I said, those guys are like children now. And he's like, well, you can get this thing called a GED. So from that point forward, I got the GED. I went back and said, hey, look, I got the GED. Can I still date your daughter? Yeah, but what about college? I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been told I was stupid all my life. I've not been very good at very many things. I was a telemarketer. I was a construction worker. I worked at Carl's Jr. I wasn't the brightest person in the pool. And he's like, well, just go to college. And I remember that I went to college and I walked up to Golden West Junior College here in Southern California. And I walked through the door, scared shitless out of my pants that they weren't going to even let me in the door. And I said, hi, I don't know what to do, but I'd like to come to school here. I'm like, okay. And then 3 hours later, I had my first class, which was an interpersonal communications class. And from that point forward, I spent 12 years working day and night and going to school. And ultimately, the same year I bought my first house, I graduated my master's degree. Nice. And from that point forward, the speaking thing, like everybody's scared to speak. There's just never been any excuses. I've just always had the vision of what it is that I need to do. I don't stop. That's why the unstoppable came in. Yeah. And so when we were talking about this, like what differentiates you from other coaches? What makes you different? I'm like, I won't tolerate anybody's bullshit. Yeah. I just won't. Like, oh, I didn't have time, Chris. Then shut the fuck up. No. Do you want it bad enough? Yes or no? On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you want it? 7 doesn't count. Where are we at? Yeah. Okay. What is it? What is your main excuse? How do we overcome that? What are some options that you need to plan for? And let's do it. If you really want to do it, let's do it. Let's kick that shit out of kick that shit to the curb. And I even proved that to myself most recently. I don't know if you've ever heard of a program called 75 Hard. It's by Andy Frisella.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
So I did that in September of 2019. I didn't want to do it. I followed Andy for quite a while when he was the MF CEO, not the AF, not the Andy Frisella AF anymore, because he's got all political. Yeah. But I literally kept telling myself, I'm like, oh yeah, that's easy. That's, I'm already in good shape and everything. And then it got to be September 1st. I think it was like Labor Day weekend. And I thought, Chris, you're always saying that you don't need to do it, but that's probably a reason why you need to do it. So overnight, I just said, I'm going to do it. My wife was like, what the hell? I said, I'm going to do this thing. And I did the 75, and I learned even more about no excuses, discipline. There was one point on day like 17 where it was 11:15 at night. It was like literally like 11:07, 11:15. And I thought I'd already done my second workout, and it was I had to do my outdoor workout. I was in bed, no bullshit, not kidding. And I got up and I was like, nobody would ever know. I could go to sleep right now. I'm exhausted. I get to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I got up and I put my shoes on and I went back downstairs. My wife was watching TV. She's like, what are you doing? I said, I forgot to do my second workout. Wow. She goes, nobody will ever know. And I walked out the door. And that's really, again, where the no excuses thing came up. Because it's like, once you eliminate the excuses, you are truly unstoppable. Life is pretty fucking easy. It's just a matter of dedicating yourself to not having those excuses. So that's where the whole no excuses coach came up.
Well, and it's so interesting that you said that, because I listened to an episode that you had with somebody recently, and they were a smoker, and you had explained that you were a smoker as well. And I was a smoker for a very long time. I chewed tobacco, I smoked cigarettes, smoked cigars, and this was years ago, but I gave it up, and I had tried to quit, I don't know how many times. And I tried everything, right? The nicotine patches, the gum, it doesn't matter what it is. I tried to do it because that was just like trading one for another. And I used to play this game with myself at night to where, my mother-in-law, she still smoked and just left her pack of cigarettes out there at night, and I'd have a beer, or whatever, chilling at night, chilling on my phone or sitting out there and just looking at that pack of cigarettes and saying, you know what? Nobody would ever know, but I would.
Yep.
And that's such a powerful thing that you just brought up, is that you would know, when you lay your head, on the pillow at night, you would know. So that's so powerful that you said that. And that's where the unstoppable comes in, correct?
True.
Because then you give it up and then you stop. Like I stopped smoking cigarettes. I don't know how many years it's been now, but it was cold turkey, right? It was cold turkey. And here I am, a fitness coach and in the fitness industry. I was still doing it like everybody did it, right? When you're young, you do a bunch of stupid shit, but you make that decision and, you do move forward. And, it's so powerful that you said that. That's what makes you unstoppable. Now, how does that relate with your coaching? Like, how do you incorporate the unstoppable and the no excuses in your coaching program? What does separate you from other coaches?
Honestly, I don't know specifically the answer to that question because I really haven't worked with a lot of other coaches. I mean, the friends that I have that are coaches, for me, it's just the no bullshit. It's like straight up, everybody else is like, well, I'll get him to feel this way. It's like, no, let's just cut to the clean. For me, it's all about getting to the root cause. Yeah. So many people are dealing with the superficial, the symptoms of situations. For me, it's like, okay, let's get to the root. And I've studied child psychology for quite some time, for about 2 years. And I've learned the conditioning process that happens between the ages of 0 and 5 pretty much determine our belief systems about ourselves. Yeah. So that carries over in our life because we have the reticular activation system that says, okay, if I look for validation, if I look that I'm a piece of shit, then I'm going to find all sorts of evidence that I am. So for me, it was like the no excuses, like just switching your mindset. Let's just shift your perspective just a little bit. Can you see how maybe it's just a little bit? And as you shift your perspective, does your confidence and your courage go up? As you start calling bullshit, like, I really don't feel like working out today. Okay, here, just do this for me. Just do this for me. Just put your shoes on, get dressed and go outside and walk around your driveway for 5 minutes. And if you don't feel like working out, go back inside and go lay down and go back to sleep. Yeah. And inevitably people will sit there and once they get up and they start moving past those belief systems, those limiting beliefs, then it's amazing. Then they're like, Chris, it was just a matter of me getting out of my own way. I'm like, yeah. Like Mel Robbins talks about the 5-second rule. You got 5 seconds where if you wake up, I'm going to set the alarm at 5 o'clock and I'm going to get up and I'm going to start working out. I'm going to work out 6 days a week. The alarm goes off. Oh, if I just snooze and if I have 10 more minutes of sleep, I'll have a better workout. It's all bullshit. If you just sit there and you go, it's 6 o'clock, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go do this. Then all of a sudden your awareness comes open to say, listen, all I have to do is just do this. Then I get to do all these other amazing things. Then I get to live my life and not be on medications. I've got friends of mine that were in better shape than me when I was in my early 20s and everything. I've worked out since I was 18, but one guy's on 17 different medications. And he's only 2 years older than me. And I'm just like, dude, all you had to do is call bullshit on yourself. I mean, he's like, well, I can't do this right now. I said, you could go for a walk around your house. Then walk around your house 5 times and then go walk outside and then go walk around the block. And in 6 months to a year, you could probably be off half of those medications. I'm not a doctor, but I've seen people do that when they just got over their own mindset, their own limiting beliefs. And more importantly, the last part of that is really who you surround yourself with, right? With Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, who are your 5? Who are your 5? Write 5 people down on the list of paper, on the piece of paper that you're around the most. And do they support you? Do they want you to go out there and take risks and challenges? Or are they trying to keep you safe and mediocre and complacent? And if those people are, you need to wish them well. You need to get 5 people that are on you need to get 5 people that are on that piece of paper that kick your ass. I've got 5 people in my coaching program. I talk about your team. Who do you trust? Who empowers you? Who holds you accountable? And who's your mentor? And they can't be the same person. Right. And so once you start taking these little bitty steps, it's fucking unbelievable what opens up for people. I see it all the time. It's amazing.
And do you find that, over the years, as you're growing as a coach, there's more and more excuses. I know that you've seen this through COVID. I know that I heard it a bunch with my business clients. Like that was like the first words out of their mouth when we get on a primary coaching call to really kind of discover if we want to work together. Yep. Well, COVID happened. And then, it's like, oh my God, if I hear the words COVID one more time, let's talk about really what it is, and I mean, do you find that it's changed our landscape in the coaching world, through, going through this, bit of a pandemic? I mean, have you heard it more? And I guess the second part of the question is what are your clients doing about it? For somebody that's listening right now, what can they do about the way that they're feeling about this?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's kind of a loaded question. I get it, but it's right there.
I'll answer through my heart, which is what I always do.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been doing during COVID is I started my Friday night show, which is the Unfiltered Experience. We called it the Friday Night Live Show originally, just as a way to just bring inspiration during the lockdown, during the 6-week lockdown back in March of 2020. Another thing I started doing, I'm like, what gift can I give to the world? What can I do for free? And I'm like, okay, I had my Calendly. So I created a 1 hour or 45-minute free complimentary coaching session. So I just started throwing those out there. Like, if you're struggling, if your head's up your ass right now and you feel like there's no other alternatives or anything, reach out to me. I'll give you a complimentary coaching session. I'm not going to try to sell you shit. I just want to help you. And all I'm going to ask for you to do is go help 3 other people and come back and tell me about it. You know, I'm all about pay it forward. And in those phone calls or in those Zoom calls, honestly, about the 10th or 15th one, I did over a couple of hundred. I started seeing a pattern. So I started asking people, I said, I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to think I'm fucking crazy, but I want you to answer as fast as you can, as honestly as you can. And people are like, okay, what are you going to ask me? And I'm like, do you love yourself? Yes or no? And I started seeing a pattern. People visibly on the camera were like, well, yeah, I think so. Well, for the most part, or, ooh, that's a great question. You know, I don't know. And I'm like, again, going back to the root cause of the problem, if you don't love yourself, then where are your actions? Where are your beliefs? Where are your intentions going to be? And the other question that I ask people, I love asking questions, because when you ask yourself the right questions and you answer yourself honestly, the pathway to success is pretty clear.
Yeah.
So I ask people also, when did it become okay to become mediocre? And people like, ooh. And my friend Bob Donnell says, when it becomes acceptable, it becomes inevitable. Yeah. So when did it become okay to be mediocre? When did it become okay to devalue yourself? When did it become okay to be complacent? Well, it's not, Chris. Okay. Then what are 3 action steps that you can take starting tomorrow that can change that, that can shift that? You know, can you write your eulogy? Can you write some powerful affirmations? Can you start surrounding yourself with better and brighter people? Can you skip the fucking 17 different shows on Netflix that you're watching and commit to an Audible account and read and listen to a book every single week and take 3 action items out of every single book that you read and listen to and apply them in your life?
Yeah.
I mean, I've done this with people. I've actually said, listen, I know you can't afford coaching. I know you don't have any money, but here's the thing. You can go to the library. I'll give you 10 books that you can go check out for free. I can give you 10 books. You take 3 things out of each one of those books, and I guarantee you, you will be successful. You know how many people have done it?
Yeah.
They choose to be miserable. It serves them.
Yep. Well, and it's funny that you bring that up. Why are people attracted to the Netflix series or the mundane shows and the numbing of the brain, rather than, like you said, filling your head full of phenomenal things that, I mean, people that are smarter than you and I that have written these phenomenal books, some of them multiple books, if they just took one thing out of each one of those books, it would change their life. Why do they go the other direction in your experience? What do you think? Because
they're running away from the truth. They're not ready to face the truth. So everybody's going to go to their short-term gratification and they're going to play that someday game. And I talk about, they hope, wish, and pray. Like, oh, and I talk to people all the time, like, well, Chris, you know, after the kids or when this or when that, I'm like, okay, tell me where someday is on a calendar. And then tell me about the guarantee for your life for the next 10 minutes.
Yep.
And if you die in the next 10 minutes, are you going to be happy with the decisions you just made? Right. So it's about rewriting your perspective about the past, present, and the future, and being very intentional with saying, okay, listen, I'm all about, go watch Netflix, go watch all those things. But at the end of the day, make sure that you've moved the needle. I talk about needle movers in my coaching program. Like, what's going to be a needle mover today that's going to get you to that next step, to fulfill that legacy that you want, and make that choice. And so many people are running away from those choices because they don't feel like they want to make them. They're like, I'm afraid to, you know, what if I fail? What if this? What if this? I'm like, whatever's going to happen, you're going to figure it out just like you did in your past, right?
Yeah.
And I ask him, like, tell me about a time where you had the most worst experience in your life, and what did you learn from that? And all of a sudden they start talking about something like, well, I went through this and I went through this. I said, at the time, did you think you were going to make it? Well, no. And I said, did you make it? Yeah. Has the lessons from that served you in your life since then? Yes. Okay, so what is stopping you from right now? And usually it's the people they associate them with themselves. Yeah. And I said, what would happen if you got yourself a coach? What happened if you got an accountability partner, somebody you can trust that will hold your ass to the fire? If you say you're going to write your book in the next 6 months and they're checking in on you every single week and you do it, 6 months from now, you could have a book out and you could be doing some other shit with your life.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just expand their opportunities and expand their awareness to say, listen, you're going to take responsibility for yourself. Nobody's going to come along. You're not going to win the fucking lottery. I love it. Well, when I win the lottery, I'm like, how many times do you play a week? I don't. I'm like, what the fuck are you telling yourself this shit for?
Yeah.
Why do you keep telling your shit? Don't stop
Yeah.
it. You know, there's a Bob Newhart, you know, I don't know how old you are, but Bob Newhart was on back in the day. Yeah. And he has this one episode where he's like, he's the psychiatrist and he's like, the lady comes in, she goes, well, every time I do this, and he's like, stop it. She goes, but no, but every time you'll stop it. And it's the whole thing. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a YouTube clip. Yeah. He's like, just stop it. Just stop it. Do something different. Dr. Wayne Dyer says when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change. It's all about taking responsibility, self-accountability, to get off your ass and to do the things that you need to do, that you know you need to do. And if you're afraid of it, ask yourself, do I want to live in fear or excitement? Yeah. Because it's just about a perspective. What do you think? What is it for your experience?
You know, I mean, from my experience, I would have to agree with you. You know, I mean, 100%. I mean, I think that excuses are BS. I think they're stories that we tell ourselves. I think they're safety nets that we give ourselves. And I think that we compare ourselves to the average individual or the status quo. And I think you're right. I think that when you are surrounded by people that are average in the status quo, then you're not moving forward. You're actually just really kind of adapting to your surroundings, and you're really kind of blending in like a piece of furniture. And then pretty soon you're just like everybody else that you're surrounding yourself with. I mean, 100% on consumption. It's the world that we live in right now. It's input versus output. Just like you would look at calories, you know, in versus calories out. It's the same thing with your brain. I mean, if you're absorbing good information and stuff that you can take into the real world or the business world that you can create something with, I mean, it's powerful. I mean, just me having this conversation with you, like I've added some brain cells, like I've, you know, really no. And I mean that, you know, respectively speaking, that like, I want to surround myself with winners. I want to bring myself up. I want to absorb that great energy, and I want to share that energy with everybody else. And I guess, you know, we'll kind of finish up with, what advice do you have for the listeners out there? And, you know, regardless of whether or not they hire a coach like you or myself or anybody of these awesome coaches out there, you know, what can they do, I guess, right now that can make an impact? What advice do you
tell you about resourcefulness? Because I just had somebody recently tell me that their whole problem is money. And I said, so how much money do you need right now to kind of get you in the clear? And they said about 10 grand. And I said, how would you feel if I said, I want you to go out and raise $10,000 in the next 10 days, and it can't be illegal, immoral, or unethical? I'm like, well, Chris, if I could do that, then I wouldn't be in this situation. I'm like, okay, well, pardon me for a second while I go dark, because you're not being resourceful enough. So tell me the person you love the most in your life. My daughter, she's 4 years old. What's her name? Haley. Okay. So Haley, get a picture of Haley in your brain. Okay. Picture of Haley in your brain. I said, I'm going to go dark. Pardon me for a second, but it's got a ending that's going to be positive. I said, if you walked into your home tonight and you saw Haley and you saw a man with a gun to Haley's head, and the man said, you need to come up with $10,000 in 10 days or I'm going to blow her brains out, and it can't be illegal, immoral, or unethical, what would you do? And they paused for a second. Like, I would sell this. I would go out and I would try to do this. I would ask for this. I'm like, you would go be resourceful. People are not being resourceful. People have $2,000 phones or whatever they cost these days. I still have an iPhone 10 that I've had for 4 years. People are going out and spending money on these phones. Oh, I got big screen TVs. I got this. I've got, you know, this car payment. Which, okay, you don't want whatever it is that you're saying bad enough. So when you get resourceful and you shed all the things, one of the things they can also do is take out a piece of paper and write down everything they're tolerating. Just write down everything you're tolerating from yourself, from inanimate objects, and from other people. Write all those tolerations out. Give it a week, because you're not going to be honest with yourself. Find everything you're tolerating. Like, oh, I tolerate that my kids don't make their lunch. I had somebody tell me, she's like, I don't have time, Chris. And I said, tell me what you do with your day. I have to make the lunches. I have to do the laundry. I have to clean the house. I'm like, how many people are in the house? 4 people. And I said, why can't the other people help? Oh, you don't understand. I'm like, if you drop dead tomorrow, is nobody going to make their fucking lunch? Is nobody going to wash their underwear?
Yeah, nobody's going to eat.
Come on. I get what you're saying, Chris. And I said, well, you have to stand up. You have to ask for what you want. You have to demand what you want. You have to have assertion, not aggression. And you have to get people on board. You know, it's just, again, it goes back to that dark place. If that was happening, would you not find $10,000? Yes or no? Yes. So what is stopping you right now? It's your own mind. It's your own belief. You have to go out there and hustle. You have to grind. You have to want it more than anything else. And I'm not telling people to get 2 hours sleep. I don't believe in the Gary Vaynerchuk, grind, hustle. Cause I don't grind. I don't hustle. I probably work about 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
I love my life. I'm not aspiring to have $10 million and all this other stuff, but I love my life. I'm healthy. I'm not on any medication. I have a great time with my family. I impact the world. I have a legacy I'm proud of. I have a nice house, all these different things because I've been resourceful. I'm a 7th grade homeless dropout. I grew up with a mother who told me I was a piece of shit. I got physically beaten. I'm a beautiful dad. I have a wonderful life because I was resourceful and because I did the work. And that's what I tell people. Stop tolerating your bullshit. Stand up for what you want. Get the right people in your life and take action every single day. Move that needle.
No excuses, man. No excuses. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. But I love what you said about being resourceful because you're absolutely right. I mean, if your back is against the wall and if you treat it like your back is against the wall and you make those stands and you make those moves, anything is possible. I mean, it really is. I mean, that's just such a fantastic message. I mean, look, you and I could probably talk all day, all night. And we're definitely going to have to, get you on here for a second episode. We got a lot of things coming up. I'm going to have you hang out a little bit backstage as we let everybody else go. Look, I think I got it right with the scrolling on the bottom of the screen, your social media. Which is the quickest way to get in contact with you? Is it your website? Is it through social? And if it is, what handles? What do you best respond to?
The best thing is just go to my website, ChristopherRausch.com. If they can't remember that, noexcusescoach.com. If you want to do something really cool, I did this the other day. I went on Google and I just had hashtag #NoExcusesCoach. I come up on everybody's podcast, everything that everybody has ever put in there. It's built like there was no other No Excuses Coach. And so it's literally, you can find me anywhere. My phone number is on my website. All my socials on there. It's easy. I'm right there.
Awesome. Excellent.
I would love to serve anybody. And Clifton, this has been amazing. So thank you so much. I've done tons of podcasts and tons of interviews. Your questions and the engagement right here has been beautiful. So I appreciate you, man.
Oh, man. I appreciate you being on. And as always, here, on our podcast, here we are. We opened up season 3. Christopher, thank you so much for being on. And if you like this, share it. If you want to hear more, hey, look, subscribe, go on, click, like, give us a thumbs up, share it, send it, do a smoke screen, or if you have to, or whatever they say back in the day. Hey, pick up your phone, call somebody, say, hey, you got to watch this. We don't care what it takes. We're here to provoke positive change in people and, of course, your peak performance as well. So we'll talk to you all soon.